In the meantime, Congressman Byron Donalds is joining us right now on Daybreak, 92.5 Fox News. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Morning, Drew. How you doing?
I'm good. Anything new happening in your world at all, or is it you been busy? Or
Oh my gosh.
I don't know how this. Listen, I'm sorry. Forgive me for trying to lighten up a mood, which has been really bizarre in the past 48 hours, and you've been on many, many programs, and I can only imagine how serious everything has been and how people have been talking to you about all of this. Look, it is quite serious, but let me just say this before we move on to get your thoughts on everything. The last time we had a big discussion about the Speaker of the House was in January, and I seem to remember at that time it was the end of the Republic. The country was going to go down in flames. Everything was going to be destroyed. Dogs and cats getting along all over. It was going to be, except for Commander, of course, which we can't have anywhere near people. But that's beside the point. But the point is that it's amazing how all of a sudden we find out everything seemed to be okay. So I'm sure everything is going to be okay now as long as we make the right decision. I just want to get all of that out there before I say to you, what happened?
Well, look, I mean, what happened is, let's cut straight. I'm not going to do the political dance.
Yeah.
Matt wanted to get rid of Kevin. That's been the case really since January. Let me take people back. Back in January, the people that opposed Kevin McCarthy or blocked him from getting the speakership in the first place, having to go the 15 rounds. We all know the story. One of the key negotiators of the deal that was talked about on the House floor 2 days ago was me, myself, Chip Roy, Scott Perry. We negotiated with Garrett Graves and Patrick McHenry and French Hill in order to create an agreement for Kevin McCarthy to assume the speakership. When that deal was brought back to the 20, the people that didn't want to vote for Kevin, despite the deal and all the historic games, were Matt and the people that basically voted to vacate the other day. Matt has always wanted to get rid of Kevin. And I know that he'll say, no, it's about total appropriation bills, and that's all well and good. He could say that, but I know better. So that's the deal. And so when the appropriation bills didn't get done on time, and they should have been done on time, and there's a bunch of reasons why they weren't done on time. When the clean CR hit the floor, even though my friend from North Florida is the one that killed the other CR that the Senate Republicans, the conservative ones, wanted to see pass so that they could squeeze Mitch McConnell in the Senate. Again, that's another situation I negotiated with the Senate conservative Republicans so we can win on the border.
Right.
When that didn't happen and McCarthy decided to go with the clean CR, that gave Matt all that he needed to do the thing that he wanted. And that is, essentially, short version. Now Kevin McCarthy is gone. What does that mean? It means specifically that the floor obviously is shut down. I've been watching some social media, and people are like, well, who cares if he's not there? Why aren't they doing their appropriation bills? Without a Speaker of the House, there is no ability to do floor action. Under the rules of the House, you cannot do anything because you do not have a leader of the House. So that's just, basic, that's just the parliamentary rules of Congress. Without a speaker, you cannot do any floor business. This week, we were supposed to put up two of our appropriation bills, energy and water and legislative branch. Those are two of the bills. They were supposed to go up this week. When the motion to vacate got filed, it stopped all of that. So now the appropriation bills are delayed, and depending on if we can come to a resolution on who the new Speaker of the House is going to be, it's only going to delay that further. What this is really going to do, and again, notice I'm not really talking about Kevin McCarthy. I'm talking about the House now.
Right.
What this is really going to do is that this is going to essentially squeeze us into another CR or potentially an omnibus or a couple of minibuses with the Senate, because the Senate does not want to do 12 appropriation bills. And by doing this, all you're doing is squeezing and creating the opportunity for an omnibus to be thrown at Republicans and Democrats in the House and to squeeze the next person who assumes the speakership into taking it on the bus because you don't have the time to finish your bills because the floor was held up because you're having to replace a speaker.
Okay.
That's what's happening.
So just so, I don't want to get too much into the weeds, but I think just to explain to people. So ultimately, when you're dealing with the Senate, you come up with this, you came up with something for border security that was agreed upon. I guess something that I think people miss is that even though you all are doing your business and you talk about separate appropriations and the like, the Senate is going to Chuck Schumer is going to do business the way, and the Senate is going to do business the way they're not changing. They're not going to do anything on their end differently to make it easier for you to do your job presently.
Yes.
So that's something that everybody has to realize, that ultimately when it gets over there, you got all kinds of other issues that are coming down the line where it's business as usual in the Senate, especially with Chuck Schumer, until things change, and hopefully they will. But up to that point, there have been a lot of negotiations that have been happening where, and again, you look at what Matt Gaetz is talking about, and in the 30,000 foot level of what he has been saying and complaining about, and what some others are complaining about. I wonder how you look at that, for example, when somebody says something about what's going on with the $33 trillion. I mean, 270 something billion dollars a day is what's being added to all of this, right? This is an outrageous thing, but it's not something that you can pin on Kevin McCarthy ultimately because it's bigger than that. So it's not like because if you do something or it's not whatever you do on your end, you still have a Senate to deal with and what they're doing. And so there's that overall picture. But so I wonder what you feel about that. And then also, some of the other things that are going on with funding a government that clearly is being weaponized against us. That big issue it kind of hovers and stinks and lingers. And it's just, what do you do about that? And then we can talk about what we're going to do moving forward in just a second. But just your thoughts on all of that.
Well, look, when Matt filed the motion, or when he said he was going to file the motion on Sunday, I believe it was, everybody was kind of shell-shocked. Like, we knew Matt wanted to do it. We just didn't know when or if he was going to pull the trigger or whatever the case might be. Some people thought it wasn't going to be triggered until today. But the reason why I think he did it earlier is because the Democrats all went to California for the Dianne Feinstein funeral. So it was going to squeeze him on the calendar. He didn't know what the numbers were. That's inside the weed stuff.
Right.
Look, at the end of the day, the $33 trillion in debt and all that stuff, I mean, look, we have this appropriations process, the one going on now, is the first time for us to even get at that. Going after the weaponization in the FBI, the Department of Justice, this appropriations process is the first time to even go after that. The woke stuff in our military, we passed the Department of Defense bill that eliminates the DEI offices, that eliminates all this other stuff at the Department of Defense so we can get the woke stuff out of our military. That has passed. We've passed that out of the House. Yeah. Being focused on border security, securing our border, many of those elements were passed in our Homeland Appropriations bill. We've even tied it by rule to H.R. 2, the bill that was a centerpiece of the other CR that secures the border. We've done all that, but we're not finished. And so my concern now is the bill that deals with weaponization, specifically the Department of Justice and FBI. That bill is still not out of committee. That bill, although we have a plan to get it out. Well, I say we had a plan because that plan has to be scrapped now because the chair has been vacated. We had a plan to get that out by the end of this month and pass it off the House floor. This process stops all of that. So for the people who say they want to stop the weaponization and they want to stop the FBI, and for the people specifically who say they want to do something about Jack Smith and what Jack Smith is doing and Merrick Garland are doing to Donald Trump, which I do agree is an abject disaster for our country, the only way the House can actually do that except other than tweeting and doing interviews, is to do it through the appropriations process. And that bill has not even come out of committee. And the reason why it can't come out now, well, technically it can, but there's some maneuvers that got to be done in the weed stuff, is because the chair was vacated. So my view was, and this is why Chip Roy did not vote to vacate. This is why I voted not to vacate. This is why Scott Perry didn't vote not to vacate. The vast majority of the Freedom Caucus all voted against vacating the chair. And the reason why is because not that we loved Kevin McCarthy, but if you are trying to get the appropriations process done so we can stop the mess that the FBI, DOJ, what's going on in the military and all that, we got to finish our work. And vacating the chair stops that.
Okay, well,
so that holds everything up.
So let me ask you this. I'm looking at the time. Can you hang on through the break? Because there's so many other things.
I can hang.
Okay, good. Because there's a lot of other things I wanted to get to. So obviously I want to know what moving. So here's what's coming. Okay, I want to ask you more about what we do moving forward because it's done. Okay, so now we have to talk about the future. All right. So I want to get to that coming up. Yeah. I also want to ask the question. All of the things you brought up, and you don't have to answer now because we're against the clock. But all the things you brought up. Let's make sure.
Drew. Yeah. I can come back, but this is President Trump. Let me talk to him, and then I'm gonna call back in as soon as I'm done with him. Okay.
Okay. Go. Okay.
All right.
See you. Congressman Byron Donalds was talking to us about what was going on with the Speaker of the House issue. And we were getting into that, maybe what we do moving forward and a couple of other things I wanted to ask about. But we were interrupted by a call from the President of the United States, former President Trump. So back to you, Congressman Donalds. So how's he doing? What did he say? Can you tell us anything about what that
Listen, he's great. He's doing good. Yeah. He's up huge. Look, I'm not going to speak for the president, but what I'll say is he's up 50 points in the polls. Yeah. I personally think he wants to be at the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue, not this end of Pennsylvania Avenue. And I'll leave it at that. Yeah. So, we talked we talked some about the speaker's race. We talked some about the presidential race. And then just, how do we get this thing together? And, listen, he gave me credit. He was like, you did cut a pretty good deal. I was like, hey, thank you, Mr. For coming from him. Yeah. That's amazing. That's major. Yeah. Anyway, so, I think now it's, now we're going to pick a new Speaker of the House.
Well, is that is it a possibility? I mean, obviously, there are some people who are like, stop. We're not going to do it. And you're not going to have people that are going to nominate Trump. Well, they are. We've already heard from people that said they will.
Well, they said they will, but again, but let me put it this way, Drew. Mm-hmm. So typically when we elect somebody to nominate for Speaker, what happens internally in the Republican conferences is like any other election, the most votes win. Okay. In this dynamic, because we've never had to replace a speaker midterm like this, and the votes came from our own party to make it happen, now the members are saying, and I agree with them, that person that we nominate to become speaker has to get 218 votes inside our conference.
Right, unanimous almost,
before we even take them to the floor.
Right.
Because, let's be cut it, nobody wants to do 15 rounds of votes again. Nobody wants to do a floor fight again. We want to be able to come out unified as a conference. Here's our nominee. There are no other nominees. The Democrats will nominate Hakeem Jeffries. We roll downhill. Let's start business and get back going.
Right.
That's what our members want. And I totally agree with that.
Yep.
So right now, you have Steve Scalise is running. You have Jim Jordan running. Obviously, Troy Nels and a couple of my friends are saying they're going to nominate President Trump.
Yep.
President Trump wants to go back to become the 47th president. I don't think he wants to be Speaker of the House. So that'll take care of itself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the obvious question is, what about you?
So look, again, we're not going to play politics. We're going to talk straight. Am I a dark horse candidate? Yes, but I'm not going to step in front of Jim and Steve. I'm just not going to do that. They have to have the room to go and get their votes. I would rather just be helpful of a speaker, advise a speaker, so we can do great conservative things and try to get this whole thing back on track.
Okay. Yeah.
Is it Let me put it this way, Drew. Is it on the board of possibility? Yes. Have some members came and talked to me about it? Yes, that has happened.
Okay.
But I'm going to watch and see what happens with Jim and Steve first.
Yeah, and to your point, listen, it's just us talking. Look, it's incredible.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's
you
awesome.
And everybody listening.
Right. It's awesome that your name comes up and you're looked at this way, and it's great. But there's an opportunity here to put this to rest quickly. I mean, if you come together as a conference and you say, and I'm just bringing up the name, you come together as a conference, some will nominate, but ultimately Jim Jordan is the one that gets the votes. Everybody agrees. Yes. We put this to rest, and then we move on. That puts everything to rest. It's done, everybody. We've moved on. We are in agreement. You all can scream and kick all you want about chaos. You know what chaos? The border's chaos. You know what chaos is? Inflation's chaos. There is real chaos going on in certain lefty cities out there with the looting and the rioting and the things that are going on. It almost feels like a daily basis. You hear these stories. There's chaos in this is not chaos, and you put it to rest. That's the first thing, which, man, that would be so nice to see. But then there's the second part of it, and you brought this up earlier, and I think it's important we talk about this again. Congressman Byron Donald is joining us on Daybreak 92.5 Fox News, and it's this. All of the things that you brought up that are on the table have been discussed, maybe not out of committee, all the good work that you've done before doesn't have to go away. If Jim Jordan now is the speaker and you all in unison decide as a conference, hey, listen, we're getting this done, let's go. It all comes back. It's the machine rolls back up again. And like the idea of assignments and committees and subpoenas and investigations. Last time I checked, Jim Jordan's really good with that. And on top of that, and he wants to be in the same place you were before, and then some when it comes to certain subpoenas and certain things that need to happen with investigations and committees and assignments. So ultimately, you can get this back on track immediately. Wouldn't you agree with that?
No, I definitely agree with that. We can't get it back because of the CR that ends in the middle of November, right before Thanksgiving, I might add. Mm-hmm. We got to move fast.
Right.
And so you got to have a leader who's going to basically be like, no excuses. Basically, hey, we're going to grind the clock to get this done. Mm-hmm. Because we have to try to win for the American people. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, this isn't about Kevin. It's not about Jim Jordan. It's not about Steve Scalise or anybody else or Matt. It's about what can we get done in the time we have left for the American people. And let me also say this. Yeah. The border is still the key issue that our people want solved. We also want to solve weaponization. I totally agree. In this, the only way you get to weaponization is that you have to win the fight on the border. It is the only path forward, and so I think.
Why do you say that? Well, why do you say that? So why do you say that the border is the fight to get to weaponization?
Because what you have to be able to do is put the Democrats in such a bad spot politically, right? Mm-hmm. That now they're begging to find ways to get out of it. At the end of the day, the Democrats don't want their polling numbers looking bad. Right. That's what it is. Joe Biden's are already terrible, which is one of the reasons why, vacating Kevin at this time, is anybody talking about Joe Biden? No. They're talking about us. That's not smart. So you got to put the border front and center. When you put the border front and center, then what happens is the Senate Republicans, some of them, and the Senate Democrats got to respond to the questions from the press. They got to respond to the media clippings. Mm-hmm. They don't want to do that. Right. And so then as they're politically being squeezed by people, Eric Adams, the mayor of New York, is going to the southern border.
Yeah, I just played the clip.
Who never thought that was possible 4 months ago? By the way, Drew, wouldn't it be great to have a bill that cut 30% of federal spending and in the agencies and secured the border? It would be really good to have a bill like that right now. Yeah. Anyway, back to where we are. Back to where we are. Yes. Right. So, when the border is the centerpiece that we say a full stop, hard line, this gets fixed, or you get nothing. When that's the position and the Democrats are being squeezed and Joe Biden can't answer questions because he never does, but now the government funding is on the line and border is the issue. We're heading into Thanksgiving. Yeah. People are like, what the heck is going on? Just secure the border. In that environment, then you get to put something else on the table. That something else is the weaponization at the Department of Justice and the politicization at the Department of Justice.
So why not go all in then? That's such a great point and an important point. And let me just take a step back and let's just talk about this for just a second. Let's say you all come back, Jim Jordan, let's say, is the speaker, everybody agrees, you're together, you're showing solidarity, and then that same solidarity is now shown on the other side, which is, look, we got a lot of work to do because we only have up until Thanksgiving to get the to get the budget issues taken care of, all of that. But the number one issue, period, full stop, is the border. We are not going to walk away from this because it's the most important critical issue that we have. And even just a couple of minutes ago, when I was up in the break room, I'm watching the CBS morning shows, and they're leading with the border and the crisis and the trafficking and all the things that are you can't avoid it. Even the media that would like to stay away from it and make believe it doesn't exist and nothing's happening can't avoid it because it's so obvious to people what's going on. So it's a winner. So maybe that's exactly what you, as Bernie Sanders would say, maybe that's what you do. Maybe that's exactly what happens. Like that. Do it. Like, make that the issue. Yeah. Let them have everything come to a halt because they refuse to lock down the border. I don't know. It seems like a great strategy to me.
And listen, my view for the next speaker, that needs to be our position. We need to hold the line. We need to fight on that. We need to be strong on that. Listen, there might be a government shutdown over it. I don't know. But that's the piece that needs to happen. Wow. But I will add, Drew, the moderate members in our conference, they want to have a fight over the border. They really do.
Good.
I've talked to them.
Good.
They're on board for this.
Good.
So I think that's there's really a possibility to kind of get a reboot and to continue to push that because it's a mess what Joe Biden's done to this country. Yep. It's like what was that movie, The Campaign? Where Zach Galifianakis is like, I'm bringing my broom because it's a mess. It's a mess. Yeah. It's bad.
Yeah.
And so you got to use one thing to drive all of your other wins, and that is the border.
Yeah. I wish I could comment on the movie. I don't watch movies. I used to watch football. I don't watch that anymore either. Can I say that out loud?
I mean,
it's just
Giants.
The truth.
Yeah.
I don't mind saying it.
Sorry,
they stink. No, they stink. Can I say this as you and me together as former New Yorkers? They stink. There's no saving that team. But I'm not going to be a Cowboys fan. I can tell you that.
Are you guys happy you signed Daniel Jones to all that money right now?
It's not his fault. You can't blame him. You're going to blame him? I don't have a problem with that.
He's okay. He's okay.
Well,
your offensive line is a mess. That's the real problem.
That's true. I'm trying to remember how many trophies does Dak Prescott have on his shelf? I'm trying to remember how many he's got.
Listen, he ain't got none. Trust me, I know. He's got none.
That's right.
2 playoff wins in 8 years or 9 years. That's what Stephen A. Smith told me. Stephen A. Smith, when I did his podcast, I started out, look, I'm a Cowboys fan. And he was just like, dude, I actually kind of like you. This is where you want to start with the thing. I said, man, I'm not afraid of confrontation, Stephen A. We can have that debate, Stephen A.
Forgive me, but the Cowboys are the last team to be talking smack about other people's quarterbacks. Because I'm sorry. I will eat this. I will eat this coffee. I will eat this paper coffee. I won't swallow, but I'll eat this coffee cup if Dak Prescott is a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Sorry, I said it. I said it.
Steele.
Yeah.
Would you rather have your quarterback or Dak Prescott?
I would rather have mine. And I'll tell you.
Oh, stop. Stop.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I can't tell you why. Jake's waving me off. We got to go. Congressman Byron Donald's joining us on Daybreak 92.5 Fox News. All right. We'll pick this up another day. We will.
All right.
Okay. All right. I'll see you later. Thanks, sir. All right. We got to go. Glenn Beck is next. Have a great day. It's Daybreak 92. Oh, we'll see you tomorrow at Oaks Farm Seed to Table at the corner of Livingston and Immokalee Road in Naples. It's Daybreak 92.5 Fox News right all along.